I do not think it's appropriate to put children on an experimental, which is still, I would regard, as a kind of experiment, when we know that the drugs have serious consequences and damaging consequences. So why would we put children in a position like that?
Do you disagree with puberty blockers being given to any child under 18?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a psychiatrist and I'm also a psychoanalyst, and it's both those disciplines that are so core to the way I think about things. And of course, as a psychoanalyst, I'm acutely aware of human psychology being a developmental process. And the crucial point of development, of course, is infancy, childhood, and adolescence. So that's a perspective I come at it from. When you say, am I against, it's in a way, it's the right kind of word, but against, it positions me as a kind of, an enemy of. I'd rather talk about what I'm for.
Sure.
And what I'm for is that children, see, I don't use the expression anymore, gender dysphoria. I use the expression children who are expressing their problems through distress in relation to their gender identity. And what we know is that those children are very complicated and have difficult problems. They include, the figures vary, but around about 35% are on the autism spectrum. Many have complex family situations, often recent traumatic situations. Many have very disturbing and confused states about their own sexuality, whether they're gay or lesbian or so on. Many of them, there's histories of, family histories of abuse and things. I'm not talking about the children being abused, but sometimes in the family histories, there's histories of abuse, all sorts of things I could name. But the point I'm making is, and this is the point that Hilary Cass made, that once the, in inverted commas, the diagnosis of gender, of being transgender is made, it has the effect now that everything is seen through that lens. Cass called it diagnostic overshadowing. And she says in her report that these children deserve the same clinical care as other children, and they weren't getting it. And that was because of this ideological penetration into the clinical domain. So once these children were called transgender, then everything is seen through that. So to come back to your question, no child should be put on an irreversible medical pathway at a point in their life where they're going through such turmoil. There are so many difficulties that even an ordinary child is facing, let alone this population who often got many other difficulties. What they need is a psychotherapeutic, it doesn't have to be psychotherapy, but a psychotherapeutically informed engagement with them over a lengthy period of time, so that the child can learn to trust the person and can learn to think about how they've come. What is the trajectory? How did they come to believe themselves, for example, to be in the wrong body? And how did they come to believe that the only solution is to get out of this body? Now, if you put them on puberty blockers, you are in effect saying this problem is a gender problem. That's not true. And secondly, you're saying we will solve all your problems through stopping puberty. That's also not true. So after saying that, the answer to your question is, I do not think it's appropriate to put children on an experimental, which is still, I would regard, as a kind of experiment, when we know that the drugs have serious consequences and damaging consequences. So why would we put children in a position like that?